Hey friends, I'm Rhiannon from Drawn by Rhiannon, and today I wanted to share with you my favourite scissors that I use for sewing. I've been sewing for years now, but if you've just started sewing, you might be a little bit overwhelmed by just the amount of different types of scissors there are, and you just don't know where to start with them. So I thought I would do this quick little video just to talk through what my favourite kinds of scissors are and where you can get them, so just to help you get started getting your sewing kit all together. I would say a great place to start with when buying your first set of sewing scissors is to purchase a really good quality pair of shears. So these ones are 10 inches long, which I personally find to be a really nice length for when you're cutting fabric, for dressmaking, but they're quite heavy. You want ones that have got like a good weight to them, but it'd be really good if you can go into a shop and just try out some different sizes, because some of them are really quite heavy and you'll struggle to use them, and then some of the smaller ones, they can be quite lightweight and you're not going to get sort of that really nice sort of cut when you go through the fabric. But yeah, I've got quite small hands and I find this size works really well, so I would recommend this size. These are the ones I got when I started my fashion degree, so they have had a lot of use. I got these from Moreplan. If you get a good quality pair of shears, you know you're going to get a really good clean cut when you're cutting out your fabric, so would highly recommend doing a good bit of research, trying out a few different ones, and getting the best sort of quality that you can afford. They don't have to be super expensive. You can spend a lot on shears if you'd like, but if you're just starting out, you can get a really decent pair for about £20, and I would really recommend doing that. But of course, just make sure that you only use them for fabric. If you've got any other people in your house that might use them, just make sure it says fabric only or something on them so that they don't accidentally get used for paper and get blunted by doing that. Speaking of cutting paper, I would recommend getting a good pair of paper scissors. So these ones, as you can see, have got a nice sharp point on them. These weren't expensive, I think they're like £1 or £2, something like that, but make sure you just keep them just for paper, and then you're going to get a really nice clean cut when you're cutting out your paper patterns or anything like that. It's worth just having a nice sharp pair of scissors for getting a good clean cut on your paper. Then I also have this pair of scissors, which again, I think these were like £1 or something, but these are for cutting basically everything else. So if I'm trimming zips or anything like that, that doesn't need to be, like I wouldn't want to use my paper scissors for cutting zips because it would blunt it, but then I don't want to use my fabric scissors for cutting zips because you got the bit of plastic of the zip to go over. So I just have this pair of scissors, which is like my anything else pair of scissors basically. Then probably one of the most important pairs of scissors for sewing is to have a really sharp pair of little embroidery scissors. Now these are what you're going to want to have just by your sewing machine. They're going to be cutting your threads, so you want something that's really nice. They've got a really sharp point on these, so you have to be careful with them. But yeah, really sharp blades, so you're cutting your threads, you're not fraying them or anything like that. And again, these aren't expensive. You can get these in most craft shops for about sort of £5-6, something like that. But yeah, highly recommend getting a proper pair of these instead of using sort of your multi-purpose scissors for cutting threads, because this is just going to give it a much cleaner snip. And like I mentioned in my top 5 sewing tips video, I always have my thread scissors on this little lanyard here. So when I'm sewing, I just have it around my neck and I know where my scissors are all the time. And I'm not sort of trying to find it on the work desk or anything like that. So if you haven't checked out my top 5 sewing tips video yet, I would highly recommend having a look at that if you're new to sewing. So those are the basic scissors that I basically started off with when I started my fashion degree. So those I would say are your definites, you need those scissors. But then if you're wanting to explore a little bit further, then these next couple of scissors might be useful for you. So I'm going to talk quickly about rotary cutters now. So this is something that I never used while I was doing my degree. We always use shears to cut fabric. But now that I've got a big cutting table in my workshop, I've found that cutting out fabric, personally for me, is so much easier with a rotary cutter. So I've got a big table, it's covered in cutting boards, and then I just lay the fabric out and I just go around it with the rotary cutter. And I find it's more accurate, it's easier, less taxing sort of on your knees if you're crawling around the floor. So if you have the space to get a big cutting table, I would just it honestly changed my sewing game. It made it so much easier. So yeah, if you have the space, I would highly, highly recommend. But I appreciate not everyone has the space for a big cutting table, so I thought I would just quickly run through the Rotary Cutters. So this is the Rotary Cutter that I use for my fabric. So this is the Alpha brand. I got this from Hobbycraft, and personally this is my favourite Rotary Cutter because it's really nice to hold. It's got like a lovely soft grip handle on it, and to cut it you have to squeeze the handles together, so you can never like accidentally cut yourself on this, because when it's not squeezed together the blade's hidden and you literally can't cut yourself on this. So that is really handy. So I would say one thing about the Rotary Cutters, the blades on them are incredibly sharp. I have got several scars over my hands and fingers from accidentally nicking myself with it when I'm cutting. So yeah, make sure you don't have these around small children or very accident prone people, because yeah, these can cause really nasty injuries. But like I say, what I like about this one is that you can't cut yourself on it sort of accidentally when it's not being used, because you have to squeeze the handles together for the blade to come out. You can see that sort of come away from the casing there, and that's the only way that you can cut your fabric. So it's just that little bit extra safety feature. So this one is a slightly more expensive Rotary Cutter. I think this one was about £15–18, something like this. But once you've got it, then it's quite cheap to use, because the blades, you just replace the blades when they get dull, and the blades are sort of like £1 each. So it's a really sort of cost-effective thing over time if it's something that you want to invest in. I used to just have that one Rotary Cutter and then change the blade, so I'd have a fabric blade and a paper blade. But basically I got lazy, so I bought another Rotary Cutter just for using paper. So I got this Rotary Cutter because it was basically the cheapest one I could find. It's from a local fabric shop called BST Fabrics, which is based in South Shields. If you are local, I would highly recommend checking it out. It's an incredible fabric shop, but they also do most of it online as well. So I'll drop all the links to all these shops in the description so you can check them out. But yeah, this one is a slightly different design in that it's got this little switch here. So if the switch is up, then the blade is hidden completely by the casing. So you just have to remember to do this every time that you stop using it. If you've got little people around or anything like that, this just prevents any accidents, because you can't cut yourself on the blade when it's hidden like that. And then you just push this little button down here, drag it down to the bottom, and then that just sort of releases the blade from the casing, so now you can cut stuff with that. You can get Rotary Cutters in different sizes. I know they do sort of like tiny little baby ones, which might be good if you're doing sort of like really intricate quilting or anything like that. But this one is, I think, 45mm one, which is like your standard size. And yeah, all my Rotary Cutters are the same size, so all the blades are interchangeable. You don't have to stick with the same brand of Rotary Cutter, because all different brands of blades fit all different brands of Rotary Cutters as long as they're the right size. So then, because that Rotary Cutter was so cheap, I then decided to buy another one that I was going to use just for my Zigzag Blade. So I don't know if you can see it here, but this is the Zigzag Blade. It's basically like a pinking shear but on a wheel instead of on your scissors. And this is what I use when I make the beeswax wraps, and I trim the edges with this to make it a really nice finish on there. So there are lots of different ones you can get of these. Some of more of like a wiggly line, whereas I like this one because it is quite a sort of sharp edge zigzag on that. So yeah, I have a separate one for this, just so I don't have to keep changing the blades. It's pure laziness, to be completely honest with you, but sometimes it's just that little bit of time it takes to switch the blades over. It's just really nice to have everything just ready to go. So yeah, so I've got the zigzag one, the paper one, and then the fabric one. So these are all my Rotary Cutters. That's all the scissors that I use for my sewing. Most of the time I'm literally just using the embroidery scissors for cutting threads, and then my Rotary Cutters, that's it. But it's good to have the full range of scissors, so you've always got what you need just on hand there. If you have any questions about these, if there's anything that I can help you to do with this, then just drop a comment down below and I'll reply to you there. I hope you found this video useful. If you have, please give it a like, and if you would like any more videos along this kind of line of reviewing different sewing tools or anything like that, then again, just drop it down in the comments and I'll be more than happy to do a video on that for you. Click here to subscribe, and then click here if you'd like to watch another video. I hope you're having a lovely day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!